I mean, I suppose this is it's not just about data, it's not just about innovation, so it's not just about materials, this is an economic kind of story. And for you, Arjun, you have a large workforce. There are labor implications of when you're kind of thinking about new materials, new building practices. What are those kinds of things that you're looking ahead and seeing?
Well, when one looks at trade-offs, I think, it's entirely complementary, actually, in India, both short-term and long-term. India finally has an infrastructure program it deserves. You have about $1 trillion of spend that's happening every 5 to 7 years. And the construction sector is the second largest employer of labor in the country. It borrows some of this from the agricultural sector off-season. And what we've seen in recent years with the demand of agricultural produce also increasing, with the planting of perennial crops, the migrant labor that used to come to from various parts of India and urban centers, by the way, where the cost of living is higher, is starting to tighten.
Right.
COVID didn't make this easier as well because, understandably, people wanted to be closer to home. So I think there's a fundamental balance that we have to achieve between labor and skilled labor and mechanization and new building materials and tooling and this also then for a developing country like India creates new jobs for the future.
Okay, but also I mean there's another issue, and a quick kind of follow up to you, but then I want to bring this to Nolik as well. Affordability, it's not a trivial question, is it? And this in particular, India is a country which is building a lot, developing, seeing the standards of living increasing. So that balancing act between things that are cleaner, are more novel building materials, and it being affordable for those who are eventually going to end up paying for it. Presumably, you're quite conscious of that, are you?
We have to be. I think we can certainly be doing better. I think. We have to actually, serve the aspirations of hundreds of millions of Indians. And I think that the government is extremely conscious of this. I think that, you have to, first of all, be able to experiment and also be ready to fail. And the public sector is certainly in many parts of the world, and especially India, wary of doing that. A couple of examples, at least on the heavy civil side. The Ministry of Transport, for example, has experimented with, in a couple of highways, the substitution of soil with urban waste. And, we don't know whether some of these experiments are going to basically fail or succeed, but what you end up then having is at least an attempt to do so, which I think in the long run is something that you need to play with. But I think this is a trade-off that's a very hard question to answer.
It's hard,
I think that there's no getting around the fact that we will have new construction. And the 3 R's, recycle, refurbish, repurpose, are still very, very expensive. I mean, there's people on the panel that are better placed to answer that question. But the 4th R, which I find interesting, which is reduce, is also something that we need to continue to consider. We all consume, I think, a bit much than we should.
But we can't forget, can we, that for concrete for a lot of people is an enormous enhancement on what might have come before. A concrete floor rather than what was there before might be an improvement. So living standards, have been improved enormously by the deployment of concrete and steel around the world.
Yeah, let's remember the concrete is also the most resilient. We're talking about climate change, etc. And I think hearing wonderful things about how this is now going to hopefully become recyclable.